Hey guys, good morning. Miss Sheila here. Sorry I'm not here with you today in person, but we're going to talk a little bit today about writing objective summaries. So, since I can't be here in person, I'm going to be here with you virtually on the screen. So, what do I mean by objective summary, and how is that different from a regular summary? Miss Sheila, we've been writing summaries all our lives. We don't need you to teach us how to write a summary. Well, objective summaries are slightly different than regular summaries. So, in a regular summary, you're most likely going to read a passage and you're going to give me all of the details that you found in that passage, and you're going to tell me how you felt about it, if you liked it, if you didn't like it. Well, in an objective summary, you're going to do some of those same things, but you're not going to give me any of your opinions. Hence, it is objective. If you don't know what the word objective means, objective is the opposite of bias. We've talked about bias last week. Bias means showing a personal preference for one thing over another. For example, we all know Miss Sheila prefers or is biased towards UNC and does not like or is biased against Duke. So being objective means that I don't have an opinion either way. I don't prefer one over the other. So for example, if you were to ask me about Major League Baseball, I could be really objective because I don't really have a strong preference for any teams in the MLB. But if you ask me about college basketball, I'd have trouble being objective because I'm very biased toward one team. So that is the difference between bias and objective. Now, what does all this mean for writing an objective summary? Well, essentially, when you write an objective summary, it's important to summarize or give the main points without sharing your opinions. So obviously the first thing you need to do when you're going to write an objective summary is you need to actually read what it is you're going to write a summary about. After you have read the passage, it is important to identify the main ideas of the text, and to do that, you may want to annotate the text that you have been reading. So when you write an objective summary, basically what you're doing is recording the main ideas of a text while showing that you understand the topic. Again, objective means no opinions, no reactions, and no personal connections. You're just recording the facts. So how do you write a good objective summary? Well, the first thing you need to do is you need to identify the main idea of what you have just read. What was the main thing that the author was trying to communicate to you? Because remember, an objective summary is focusing only on the main ideas and the details that support it. Once you've identified that main idea, you're going to want to go back through and identify what key details did the author use to support that main idea. So identify main idea, go through and find key details that support that main idea. Also, keep in mind that an objective summary should be pretty brief. We're not writing War and Peace here. We're not rewriting the entire passage. We're really just trying to identify the main idea and the key supporting details. So really, it should not be all that long, maybe 5 or 6 sentences for a good objective summary. It also needs to be accurate. You're only reporting the facts, so that means you need to make sure you get those facts right. You shouldn't be adding in a bunch of your own opinions, and you shouldn't be adding in stuff you've read elsewhere. This is a summary of what you've just read, so it needs to be accurate. And then finally, an objective summary needs to be objective. That seems to go without saying, but you wouldn't imagine how hard it is to write something without putting your own opinion into it, because we're not used to doing that. We're used to writing and telling people exactly how we feel when we write, but in an objective summary, we really have to stick to the facts. All right, now that we've looked at what makes a good objective summary, we're going to talk about what to avoid in your objective summary. Some of this may seem to be a little bit repetitive, but you would be surprised how many students make these mistakes even after we've talked about what needs to be included in an objective summary. So, do not copy parts of the original source. But Ms. Sheila, we're supposed to cite evidence from the text. Yes, you are. That's if you're writing an argument or you're trying to support a claim. When you're summarizing, you're not really making any new or original claims, so you don't need to pull ideas from the text or quote things from the text to support what you're saying. What you're saying should go along with exactly what's already in the text. Also, can't say this enough, Do not include your opinions. It doesn't matter if you think what is in the text is interesting. That's an opinion. That should not be going in your objective summary. Yes, I'm glad you find it interesting. No, I don't want you to put it in your objective summary. You don't need to tell me that you disagree with it. While that is important to know and tell me in other instances in an objective summary, the goal is just to report the facts. Again, you don't need to write an overly long or detailed essay. If your summary is approaching the same length as what you just read, it's not a summary. Again, 5 to 6 sentences. That's probably going to be all you need for, a back and front text. You don't need to add in a ton of details. Remember, you're just focusing on the main idea of the passage and the key details that support that. Remember, this is a summary. We're not trying to write a whole new essay here. We'll have plenty of time for that later in the year, so take advantage of this time now to write something a little bit shorter. The last thing we're going to look at is the structure of a good objective summary. As I've said, they're very short. Here I have listed that it should be probably at least 5 sentences. I don't think it's going to be any more than 6 or 7 sentences. The first thing that you're going to write in your objective summary is what the main idea of the passage that you just read. What was the main idea? The most important idea of the original source. So you're going to write that out. That's 1 sentence. Then you want to find supporting details. You should try to find at least 3. Most authors are going to provide at least 3. If there are more and they're all very compelling, you can add more. But try not to get too bogged down. Remember, we're looking at the main supporting details. We don't need to get into all the examples and things like that. And then finally, you'll want to write a concluding sentence, a summarizing sentence that sort of wraps up everything that you've just said about the main idea and the key details, so that when I walk away, I know that you have a good understanding of what you've just read. Essentially, that's the point of this objective summary. It's to show me that you have a good understanding of what you've been reading. All right, so right about now you're probably wondering what an objective summary looks like and how it's actually different from a regular summary. So I'm going to give you an example of an objective summary that I wrote for the poem Knock Knock, which we read last week. Since you're all familiar with the poem, you know what it's about, this objective summary will make a lot of sense to you. So remember last week we talked about the main idea of Knock Knock being that the son is saying he's not going to be defined by his father's choices, and he's going to break down these invisible barriers of oppression that his father has kind of been imprisoned, for lack of a better word, by. So that was the main idea. And some key details that we found in the poem that would support that would be, number 1, he repeats twice that he is his father's son, but he's not his father's choices. The second key detail would be that he talks about knocking down doors of racism, poverty, and opportunity. And then finally, he talks about the power to change the world one boy and girl at a time. So those 3 details are all things that I think support the main idea. So I'm going to take that main idea and those 3 key details, and I'm going to create an objective summary. The first objective summary I'm going to show you is actually a non-example. It's what not to do. So in this first non-example I've written, the main idea of the poem Knock Knock is to tell the audience that he, the son, will not be defined by his father's choices and that he will knock down doors of oppression. It's really cool how the poem does this by using the knock knock refrain. I really like that. He talks about how he is his father's son but not his father's choices, which really makes a lot of sense because you aren't your parents. He also talks about poverty and racism, and those are definitely issues. Also, he says any boy or girl can change the world, which I definitely agree with. That's how he tells us he's not going to be defined by his father. It's a great poem. So take a few seconds, look at this, and see if you can figure out why this is not objective. So I went ahead and put in red the things that are biased or not objective. So saying something is really cool, that is your opinion. Therefore, it is not objective. It is biased. Telling me that you really like something or that you agree with something, again, that is showing me your bias. just because you like something or just because you agree with something doesn't mean that everyone is going to agree with it, so therefore it is not objective. Telling me that you think something makes a lot of sense. It might make sense to you, but it might not make sense to somebody else. So again, that shows your bias and therefore is not objective. If you think something is an issue, there will certainly be people who don't think that that same thing is an issue. So again, we run into bias, making it not objective. Telling me you think it's a great poem. I'm glad you think it's a great poem, but I'm sure there are people that disagree with you. So therefore, it is not objective. In this last slide, I've shown you what you should do to write an objective summary, how you could put one together. So I'll go ahead and read it for you. It says, the main idea of the poem, Knock Knock, is to tell the audience that he, the son, will not be defined by his father's choices, and that he will knock down doors of oppression. The poem communicates this message by repeating twice that he is his father's son, but he is not his father's choices. He also mentions knocking down doors of poverty, racism, and opportunity. Finally, he talks about people having the power to change the world one little boy and girl at a time. Therefore, the poem conveys the message that the son will be his own person and will do what his father could not do. This might seem a lot drier or a lot more boring than the previous summary, but it is objective. Notice I haven't given you my personal opinions. You don't know what I think about it in terms of if I liked it or if I didn't like it. All you have there is facts, what was in the poem. So just remember, when you're writing an objective summary, just stick to the facts, things that can be proven, not opinions. So now that you've had an opportunity to learn about what an objective summary is and see see an example and a non-example of an objective summary, you're going to have the opportunity to write your own objective summary today. So please make sure you have out a piece of notebook paper and a pen, and you are going to write an objective summary about the first week of school. So as you're writing this, you're going to want to keep in mind, what would be one main idea that you could use to summarize the first week of school? Maybe it was really, really boring, or maybe it was awesome that you got to meet a bunch of your friends, although you can't say awesome because that would be not objective. So think about a main idea or a theme that would summarize the first week of school. Then you're going to want to think of 3 pieces of evidence or things that happened that would support that main idea that you just came up with. Remember, when you're coming up with these pieces of evidence, when you're coming up with this main idea, you cannot give your opinion. That's the point of it being objective. Finally, you're going to have a concluding sentence that wraps up how the week went in your opinion, and then your objective summary will be done. After you finished your objective summary, you're going to switch with a partner, and your partner is going to read through your objective summary and identify any areas of bias that you have included in your summary. So you really have to be on your A game because it's really hard not to include your opinions when you are writing something. We all do it all the time. I think it's hard to not include my opinions, and I think you're going to find it kind of a little difficult as well. Maybe not as easy as you think. I think that's all that I have, so I'll let you get to work. Before I go, be good to the sub, be nice. I know you guys are good, and I want only good reports. If you have any questions, I will be back this afternoon, so stop by my room if you have any questions, and I can answer them for you, or if you just want to say hi. Always love to see you guys, and if not, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, and see you later.